Clara was not your ordinary girl living in the Wild West in the 1800s. At just 19 years old, she was bursting with intelligence and ideas. While most women of her time were expected to tend to homes and families, Clara had a mind that wandered far beyond those boundaries. She loved reading books about farming, science, and even engineering. This knowledge made her stand out, but it also brought challenges that were hard to bear. In Clara's hometown, many people didn't appreciate her sharp mind. They saw her as a threat, someone who questioned their ways and traditions. Whispers followed her wherever she went. "Why does she think she knows better?" they would say. The men in town looked down on her ambitions, believing that a girl should not dream too big. After many months of feeling isolated and unwanted, the townsfolk finally decided they had enough of Clara's ideas. They kicked her out, telling her she didn't belong among them. Alone and far from home, Clara felt a mix of fear and determination. Instead of giving up, she decided to carve her own path. She took her small savings and hiked up into the mountains, drawn by the promise of untouched land. There, among the tall trees and rocky cliffs, Clara found an old piece of land that seemed to call to her. With every step on that rugged terrain, Clara envisioned a future she could build for herself. She pictured cows grazing under the open sky and a dairy farm that could provide milk for those in need. It wouldn't be easy, but Clara was ready to prove that being smart was not a curse, it was a gift she could share with the world. Clara stood at the edge of town, her heart heavy with disappointment and anger. Just days before, she had been eager to share her ideas about innovative farming techniques and ways to improve life for her neighbors. Instead of excitement, she was met with scornful stares and derisive laughter. "You think you're smarter than us," the men would sneer, shaking their heads. Clara felt the weight of their words like stones tossed at her. Tensions mounted when she presented a plan for a new irrigation system that could save crops in drought. Rather than recognition, she was met with hostility. The elders gathered in the town square that fateful afternoon, their faces grim as they pointed fingers at her. "We can't have a girl thinking she knows better," one shouted, rallying the crowd against Clara. With their harsh words echoing around her, she understood they were making an example of her, fearing a change that she so desperately wished to inspire. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows over the dirt roads, Clara was ushered away from the community she once called home. "You don't belong here," they told her coldly. Leaving behind memories of laughter and friendships that had turned sour, Clara found herself wandering into the wild, uncertain yet determined. With every step away from the town, a fire ignited in Clara's heart. This was not an end but a new beginning. She vowed to prove them wrong, to show that intelligence and ambition could build something valuable. All she needed was land and an idea. As she hiked into the mountains, she envisioned a dairy farm that would not only provide for herself but also serve those who might need help one day. Clara's mind raced with plans. This was her chance to transform rejection into something meaningful. Clara climbed higher into the mountains, her heart racing with hope and trepidation. The air was crisp and fresh, filled with the scent of pine and earth. After hours of hiking, she stumbled upon a patch of land that seemed untouched by time. It was an open meadow surrounded by towering trees and rocky hills, a perfect spot where sunlight spilled gently onto the ground. Clara felt an electric thrill run through her. This could be the place where her dreams could take root. As she surveyed the land, her mind whirred with possibilities. The meadow was flat and fertile, ideal for grazing cows. Clara imagined the sound of hooves on the grass and the gentle mooing of cattle. She could raise dairy cows here and provide milk not only for herself but also for those in need. It was her chance to create something meaningful, a way to turn her rejection into help for others. With determination in her eyes, Clara began to plan how she would transform this wild piece of land into a thriving dairy farm. First, she needed to clear some brush and prepare the soil. She envisioned a sturdy fence to keep the cows safe and a cozy barn where they could rest at night. Every detail came alive in her imagination as she mapped out her dream on paper with a pencil she had brought along. Days turned into weeks as Clara worked tirelessly. She dug up rocks and cleared the land, all while dreaming of the future. At night, under a canopy of stars, she would whisper to herself, "This is just the beginning." Each drop of sweat was worth it as she constructed her barn from timber she'd gathered and built troughs for feeding the cows. Clara's heart swelled with pride as she created a place that would not only be hers but also serve a greater purpose. She had finally found her sanctuary, and in it, she saw the promise of hope for many. Clara woke each morning before the sun rose, filled with purpose and determination. The cool mountain air greeted her as she stepped outside, ready to tackle the many tasks ahead. She began her day by clearing the land, using a sturdy shovel she had found in the barn. With every thrust into the earth, Clara felt empowered, knowing she was shaping her future. After hours of digging and pulling up stubborn roots, Clara turned her attention to planting. She knew that having fresh grass for her future cows was just as important as building the barn. With careful planning, she sowed seeds for clover and alfalfa, imagining the lush green feed that would soon nourish her animals. As she worked, she sang softly to herself, the sound of her voice mingling with the rustle of leaves around her. Once the planting was done, the next step was to build a safe shelter for her cows. Clara gathered timber from fallen trees and crafted sturdy walls for her barn. Each piece fit together like a puzzle, a testament to her hard work and ingenuity. Clara's fingers ached from the labor, but each ache reminded her of her goal, to create a space where not only her cows could thrive but also a place that would eventually help others in need. After finishing the barn, Clara took a moment to stand back and admire her work. "It's just like I imagined," she said out loud with a smile. Soon after, she set out to find cows. She traveled down into the valley, seeking out farmers who could sell or trade their livestock. When she finally returned with 3 milk-producing cows, her heart raced with joy. Clara lovingly tended to her new companions, ensuring they had plenty of fresh water and good food. As days turned into weeks, she watched the cows grow stronger and healthier under her care. Each morning brought new challenges and triumphs, and with every drop of milk collected, Clara felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She was turning her dreams into reality, one hard-earned task at a time. With her 3 cows settled in the barn, Clara felt a surge of excitement. She had read about how to care for cattle and knew that proper feeding and regular milking were essential for success. Each day, she made sure her cows had fresh hay and water, keeping them comfortable and content. Clara spoke to them as if they were old friends, sharing her dreams and hopes while she brushed their coats, earning their trust. As the days passed, Clara learned the art of milking. She practiced her technique carefully, recalling the instructions she had studied. "Easy does it," she whispered to herself, gently massaging the cows to encourage them to let down their milk. Her patience paid off. Soon, Clara could fill her buckets with creamy milk, a reward for her hard work and dedication. To store the milk, Clara was determined to create large steel vats. Knowing this would be a challenge, she sketched out her ideas and set to work. Using scrap metal she had gathered from the area, she fashioned sturdy containers that could hold the precious milk. It took several days of intense labor, hammering metal and welding seams together, but Clara was relentless. Finally, the vats were ready. Clara beamed with pride as she filled them with fresh milk after each milking session. The sight of the creamy liquid swaying gently inside brought tears of joy to her eyes. This was not just milk, it was the realization of her dreams and her way of contributing to those in need. As word spread about her milk production, Clara's heart swelled with hope for the future. She envisioned sharing this precious resource with families who suffered during the famine. With each new day, Clara grew more skilled and confident in her abilities, embracing her role as a farmer who could truly make a difference. The mountain was not just her home, it was the cradle of her aspirations. As Clara continued to build her dairy farm, towns nearby were suffering from a severe famine. The once bustling streets were now filled with worried faces. Families struggled to find enough food to eat, and many were forced to sell their belongings just to buy a few necessities. The sound of empty stomachs echoed in the air, and desperate whispers filled the dusty lanes. Rumors flew about the lack of crops. Drought had devastated the fields that normally yielded harvests. Farmers who had worked their land for generations watched helplessly as their crops withered under the unforgiving sun. Many families could only afford a little cornmeal, which barely kept hunger at bay. Clara heard stories of children crying for food and parents feeling helpless in their attempts to provide. One afternoon, while taking a break from her work, Clara decided to venture down the mountain to see for herself how the townsfolk were coping. As she walked through the streets, she observed the sadness etched on faces everywhere she looked. A mother sat outside her home, holding her hungry baby close, while an elderly man rummaged through an empty cart for scraps. Clara's heart ached for them. She thought about her cows and how much milk they produced daily. "I can help," she whispered to herself, suddenly realizing that her dairy farm could provide relief during this trying time. The idea ignited a fierce determination within her. With newfound purpose, Clara resolved to share her milk with those in need. She envisioned setting up a system where families could come and collect fresh milk to ease their hunger and nourish their children. Each drop of milk represented hope; it could bring a bit of comfort amidst the crisis surrounding them. Clara knew this was her chance to make a difference, not just for herself but for everyone suffering in the valleys below. Clara wasted no time in putting her plan into action. The next morning, she carefully filled her large steel vats with fresh milk, the creamy liquid representing not just sustenance but a glimmer of hope for those struggling below. As she stirred the milk, she could already envision the faces of the families who would benefit from her generosity. "This is for them," she said to herself, determination shining in her eyes. With the sun high above, Clara set off down the mountain, carrying heavy buckets of milk. Each step was filled with purpose, and she thought of the children who would drink it, their bellies full and happy. When Clara reached the first house, she knocked on the door, her heart pounding with excitement and a hint of nervousness. A weary woman opened the door, her eyes widening as Clara presented the milk. "Please, take this," Clara said warmly. "I have more than I can use, and I want to share it with you and your family." The woman's face softened as tears welled in her eyes. "Thank you so much. You don't know how much this means to us." As word spread through the townsfolk about Clara's kindness, more families began to visit her farm. Each time they came, Clara welcomed them with open arms and a smile. She set up a simple collection system where people could come daily to gather milk for their households. Though she was alone on the mountain, Clara felt surrounded by a sense of community that warmed her heart. It reminded her that even during dark times, kindness could create connections that no one could take away. As laughter echoed around her during each visit, she realized that building her dairy farm had become more than just a personal success; it had turned into a lifeline for those in need. Clara's spirit soared as she made a difference, proving that a single person's compassion could ripple outwards and uplift an entire community. As Clara began the journey down the mountain with her buckets of milk, she quickly realized the challenges ahead. The narrow, rocky path twisted and turned, making it difficult to maintain her balance while carrying the heavy loads. Each step required her full attention, as she maneuvered around loose stones and uneven ground. Clara focused on keeping the bucket steady, knowing that any spill would mean less milk for the hungry families below. The sun beat down on her, and sweat dripped from her brow as she trudged along. Clara felt fatigue tugging at her muscles, but the thought of the children waiting for her milk fueled her determination. "I can do this," she whispered to herself, pushing through the exhaustion. She had to remind herself that every difficult step was bringing nourishment to those in desperate need. As she descended further, Clara encountered a steep incline that made carrying the milk even more challenging. She paused to catch her breath, placing one bucket on the ground while gripping the other tightly. The view from this spot was breathtaking, but Clara had little time to enjoy it. She could already imagine the empty faces of families who needed her help. Just then, dark clouds rolled in overhead, and a sudden gust of wind whipped through the trees. Clara looked up, feeling a sense of urgency. "I have to hurry," she exclaimed, knowing that rain would only make the path more treacherous. With renewed energy, she hoisted both buckets and continued down the mountain. Despite the obstacles, steep paths, heavy buckets, and unpredictable weather, Clara pressed on. When she finally reached the first town, her heart soared with pride at having made it safely. She quickly set up a collection point where families could come to receive their share of milk. As they arrived with grateful smiles on their faces, Clara knew that every challenge had been worth it. She was making a real difference in their lives. As word spread about Clara's generous actions, she quickly became a beacon of hope for the families suffering from famine in the nearby towns. They spoke of her kindness in hushed tones, sharing stories of the girl who dared to venture into the mountains alone and return with milk for those in need. Mothers brought their children to see the young farmer who had restored a little joy to their lives. Clara noticed the way people regarded her when they arrived at her collection point, eyes filled with gratitude and respect. Each time she handed out milk, she felt a connection growing between them, as if they were all part of a larger family now. "Thank you, Clara," a father exclaimed one day, holding his child close as he received the fresh milk. "You are giving us hope during these dark times." His words echoed in her heart, motivating her even more. In addition to families coming for milk, local farmers and community leaders began to visit Clara. They wanted to learn from her success and see how she had managed to create such a thriving dairy farm despite being alone. Clara shared her practices and techniques openly, willing to teach anyone willing to listen. This spirit of cooperation built trust within the community and reminded everyone that they could work together for a brighter future. Clara's dairy farm soon became a vital lifeline in the area. As more families lined up to collect milk, Clara was overwhelmed with emotion. She was not just feeding people but also offering them a sense of stability and comfort during uncertain times. The laughter of children began to fill the air again, and Clara felt a warmth spreading through her heart. Through her selfless actions and unwavering spirit, Clara transformed from an outcast into a respected member of the community. Her efforts not only nourished bodies but also sparked hope and resilience among those facing hardship. Clara had turned her rejection into acceptance and had shown that kindness could truly change lives. As Clara sat on the porch of her barn one evening, watching the sun dip below the mountains, she reflected on her incredible journey. Just a short time ago, she had been cast out from her hometown, alone and uncertain of her future. The whispers of doubt and rejection still echoed in her mind, but now they were replaced with the laughter of children and the gratitude of families she had helped. It was hard to believe that the girl once deemed too smart had become a lifeline for so many. Clara thought about the challenges she faced, the long days of labor, the precarious journeys down the mountain with heavy buckets, and the relentless determination that pushed her to keep going. Each obstacle had shaped her into the strong woman she was now. With every drop of milk shared, she felt herself grow more connected to the community that had once turned their backs on her. "I never imagined I could make such a difference," Clara mused quietly, a smile spreading across her face. She recalled the first family who came to collect milk, their eyes shining with hope as they thanked her for providing nourishment during difficult times. Those moments motivated her to keep working hard. Clara knew her dairy farm was more than just a means of sustenance, it was a symbol of resilience and compassion in the face of adversity. The thriving connection she built reminded her that kindness could overcome even the harshest circumstances. Though she had started out alone on that mountain, she had created a community, a family forged by shared struggles and triumphs. With a heart full of gratitude, Clara realized that being expelled from her hometown had led her to discover her true purpose. She transformed rejection into acceptance and became a hero in the eyes of those she served. As night fell and stars twinkled above, Clara felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She was exactly where she was meant to be, making a lasting impact and inspiring others along the way.